folks, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Shurina. I'm your host. I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best brain body tools you can use to feel, look, and do your best. But it's all about, folks, making great decisions and turning your brain into your ally. And instead of struggling with things like motivation or focus or procrastination or distractions or overwhelm, instead of struggling with all of that or inability to learn or be creative or being anxious and having racing thoughts and not knowing what to do with that. So instead of struggling with that, here we learn how to approach that as something to adjust, to fix, to work around, adjusting different brain settings. In our reality, in our life, a lot of things will happen and we will be in suboptimal states. Sometimes we're gonna feel low on motivation. Sometimes it's gonna be a struggle to focus and get into that flow state. Sometimes it's gonna be harder to learn. Sometimes we're gonna struggle with our anxious, worried thoughts. Sometimes it's gonna be hard to calm the brain down. But there are always tools. And folks, yesterday I was on a coaching call with one of my clients, and we talked about this concept that whenever a more negative state or thought comes up, one thing we should all think about is that it is not personal. It happens to every single human being. We have these states. Human beings are not designed to be in one state of perpetual, happiness and productivity and just having it all figured out. That's not what life is, and nobody goes through life like that. So number one, it's not personal. It happens to every single person out there. But what differentiates people who successfully go through life and move forward and make progress instead of being weighed down by those problems and anxious thoughts or inability to focus and deliver the work. So what separates people who overcome that from people who keep struggling, and because of that, they achieve much less and are capable of much less. What separates the people is people who succeed, who overcome those struggles, choose to look at it as a puzzle, as a issue, as a problem to be fixed, to be adjusted, to be worked around, instead of just accepting it as it is. And it's like, well, it's me. It's not you. It happens to every single human being. And there are tools to address every single suboptimal state you might be going through that is in the way of achieving the goals, of building the dreams that you have for yourself. Also, yesterday we were talking about how confidence, for example, sometimes we lack that confidence in a specific situation or in a specific domain or for a specific time or, before a specific meeting. And that can interfere with our ability to deliver work, to deliver our best pitch or performance or presentation. And we talked about how working on our mindset and having the tools to adjust that will help you do one very important thing: to stop standing in your own way of your own success, and instead become someone like your mindset will become something that will accelerate that progress, making your best qualities and skills shine. Versus if you have mindset, if you don't work on your mindset and you allow lack, for example, of confidence to just diminish who you are, that means that you yourself are going to be standing in your own way of your own goals, of your own dreams, of your own life vision. And so the purpose of this work, of working on understanding your brain, your mindset, and how you can shift it, is to do that, to amplify who you are and what you can do, instead of diminishing that and standing in the way of your own success. So that's a little bit of a rant for this Friday morning for you. Hope you had also some insights. I love having my coaching calls with clients because it also gives me so many insights in what's happening in my own life. And it just gives me a better understanding and perspective on what happens in our minds and why our lives turn out to be the way they are. But I guess also the main takeaway, we are works in progress and you can improve things. And that is the foundation also, folks, of this quality that is called by psychologist Carl Dweck, is the main researcher who did a lot of work on that. This is the foundational quality, believing and also taking action on that. And that quality of our mind, ability to change, that is the foundation of growth mindset, right? The belief that you can change, that you can adapt, that you can improve, and where you are today and how you feel is not permanent. You can change it when you know what to do and how to address whatever issue is there. Today, folks, as you guessed, we're going to be mastering focus. Over the course of past few weeks, I've been working one-on-one with a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle with focus, with distraction. Some of them have ADD or ADHD. Some of them don't, but a lot of people struggle with focus. Again, it's not you. It's not personal. It's also our environment with a lot more distractions, with a lot more interactions with other people, with just a lot more things, also information and things in our mind and things we have to remember to do or to take care of. There is so much. And that's why this skill of focus is becoming more and more pronounced and crucial and essential to master. Because in the old days, it was kind of simple. You didn't have your phones, your social media. You would just go to work and do your work. There was nothing else to do. And at some point, there was either no email or very little email, and you could easily implement this flow of email and work in your day. But these days, if you don't take care of your environment, if you don't take care of your brain, of your mindset, of your thought process, of managing that thought process, if you don't take care of your biology, then your focus is going to be a real struggle. Doesn't matter whether you have anything clinically diagnosed or you don't. Every single person is struggling with focus right now. And the way out of this struggle is knowing what works to keep your brain focused and what doesn't work that's going to create more of a struggle. And then it's your choice. Do you want to struggle more and accomplish your work in 3 times the time that it would actually take if you just focus? Or you could just learn this, put these practices in place, and then go through your work much faster. You'd be surprised how much faster things take when you just focus on one thing, right? It's your choice. But today, it's my job to present you the information, the research, the practices, and then you can choose what you want to do. So when we work in focus, I like to have the image of 3 buckets where you're going to work on to increase your focus. And they're all important. And you need to look in all of them if you want to really harness the power of your focus and even get into flow state. Today is not about flow state. Today is about focus, but focus is a necessary condition for flow states. So until you master focus, don't even hope to get into flow state. But today is about focus. And I'd like you to imagine 3 buckets that are equally important. None of them is more or less important. You need to look into all of them. So number 1, environment. Number 2, psychology. Number 3, biology. These are the buckets that you need to look into and put things in place, fill those buckets with the right practices in order to really harness your focus and improve your ability to focus fast, long, consistently, delivering and work at an accelerated pace. There's been research, I read it in Brain Friendly Workplace by Friederike Fabricius. She's a researcher and a corporate brain coach in Germany. And in her book, she brought up this research that showed that people who are constantly interrupted, or they do a lot of task switching, let me check my email, let me check my phone, let me do this, and then focus back on, for example, the presentation I was doing. So people who do this kind of style of work, it takes them on average about 50% longer to accomplish the task, and then they on average make 50% more mistake. That is a huge number, folks. Like, I didn't do the research, but I do know that when I allow myself to be interrupted by my own thoughts, by technology, by whatever that is, if I don't set and follow really good boundaries, then yes, task is taking me forever to accomplish. So just be aware that that's what's happening. And that's where you might be losing so much time, having to work long hours and thinking, what is my boss thinking? Or maybe what is my team thinking? Or how am I going to build this startup if I can't even handle this amount of work? And this is where the key to accelerated progress and results lies. How to get more done in less time. You just work, for example, one of the things on your focus. Got some water, hydrated my brain. By the way, we're going to talk about that. Your brain is a biological structure. It requires nutrition and hydration in order to work well. Kind of like a car requires fuel to go, your brain requires certain things to work. Focus is not created in a vacuum. Again, your brain is a biological structure and organ, and it requires certain conditions to work. Hydration is one of those very important things. Even 2% dehydration, folks, will considerably and measurably decrease the capacity of your brain to perform cognitively. That being said, let's maybe start with biology. So, as I mentioned, this is one of the buckets, biology. Your brain is an organ. It's a biological organ. It requires things to work well. And you need to provide those things for your brain to create states like focus or states like motivation. Today, we're talking about focus. So focus, for example, needs this important molecule, dopamine, to be optimized. So usually people with good amount of dopamine, the dopamine system that functions well, will have much less trouble focusing. And you can harness the power of your dopamine and the power of your focus more when you stack all the chips in your favor, like your biology. What does it mean? Well, first of all, hydrate. Andrew Huberman recommends first 10 hours of waking, drink about half a glass per hour. So a glass every couple of hours. Oh no, a glass every hour. Yes. So the number is a glass every hour, and every couple of hours is, I guess, 2 glasses or half a liter. So that's usually my rate. So hydrate well. That's the point. You want to be hydrating well right from the beginning, especially after night of sleep, because you've been not drinking any water, staying dehydrated for quite a while. The second thing is your protein intake. Your dopamine is made of protein and a specific amino acid, L-tyrosine. Some people choose to supplement. I like to tell people to go with 30 grams of protein, because other tissues like your muscles and a lot of other organs also need that protein, not just your brain. So get 30 plus grams of protein. That will also actually work for your hunger levels. You're not going to be hungry for a lot longer. And your hunger levels have also to do with focus. If you're hungry, it's going to be super hard to focus for long hours. So protein, get your 30-40 grams for breakfast. If you're not a breakfast person, have a protein shake and, get over it. It will work for your focus. A lot of people who struggle with focus don't consume enough protein. And when they do, they feel more balanced, more leveled out. So protein, non-negotiable, right? You get your hydration, you get your protein. Then, of course, a couple of other things for your biology that you do before you focus. Sleep. If you don't sleep enough, if you sleep 6 hours or less, chances are your dopamine levels are suboptimal and it's going to be harder for you to focus. But you probably already know that after a good night of sleep, it's much easier for you to focus, learn, and go through your work. So understand that every time you shortcut your sleep, what you're going to do is you're going to make your focus super hard the next day, and your productivity going to decrease double. Like at least. So some people say, well, I need to work late hours. And the reason why you need to work late hours is because you sleep less. It's harder for you to focus. It's harder for you to deliver work faster. And then it takes longer to do everything. And that's why you have to stay long hours. So break the cycle, get the sleep that you need, your 7.5, your 9 hours, and then see how much faster you go through the tasks. So sleep. The second one, very important for dopamine levels, and dopamine again is important for your focus state, light exposure. Not just any light, but light in the first couple of hours of sunrise, as close to your waking time as possible for 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how sunny or how cloudy it is. So that will also stimulate healthy, optimal levels of dopamine that will stimulate and boost optimal focus for the whole day. So sleep, light, then we get our breakfast, keep moving, folks, because so go for a walk, do some squats, because that blood circulation that is boosted by movement will deliver the hydration, the oxygen, the nutrients that your brain needs to create focus. And in general, with poor blood circulation, it's going to be hard for you to focus. So move. I always recommend my clients every 30 minutes, and I get this 30-minute number from NASA research. Every 30 minutes, stand up, do something, a few squats, a few burpees, and then get back to work, sit down, and you boosted that blood circulation. You made your heart pump blood faster and stronger. And then you can get back to focus, and that will allow you to focus longer and stay with the task for much longer to, again, deliver results much faster. And that's about biology. The side note here, folks, again, if you are interested in having a long focus that you can maintain for, let's say, 60, 90 minutes and then take a longer break, then every 30 minutes, you got to do a little bit of movement, don't sit down, your blood circulation start diminishing around 30 minute mark. So do some movement, and also don't stay hungry, that protein, but also in general, if you feel like, your fuel is running low, eat an apple, something, especially, of course, after you get that protein, but have something with fiber, something whole, with something that will help you to feel like your energy is stocked up. And that's usually something like a whole food carbohydrate and protein-rich food as well. I'm not going to go deeper into brain nutrition one-on-one, whole profile of the foods you need to eat, but just remember, carbohydrates with fiber in whole foods and sufficient amount of protein will do the job. Take breaks, move, sleep well, do light exposure every morning. And, well, we're going to talk about the environment next then. What I wanted to say is that light exposure, also, folks, don't forget, and that's kind of the connection between your biology and your environment. So the place where you work at, the light, whether you have natural light, whether it's well lit or it's like a dungeon, like a cave and you can barely see, that will affect your productivity levels. There is more than enough research showing us that people work better with places brightly lit, light, either natural light or that simulates natural light. There are lamps that are designed to simulate that natural light. So that environment, folks, will affect your productivity and your focus. Light, make sure that you're in a place that are brightly lit. I usually prefer to sit by the window if there is no sun shining right in my face. That can also disturb my focus. Then I would sit a little bit away from the window so the sun isn't shining right into my face, right? So light, make sure it's good. Music also helps with focus. I personally love Brain FM. It's an app, a website, and they use research to design specific kind of music that helps the brain to focus. And they also ask you a few things about your preferences, how much struggle you usually have with focus, and they adjust what they call neural effect of their music, and it works. It makes a focus so much easier and faster. And so many entrepreneurs I got on coaching calls for the first time. They're like, yeah, I also love this Brain Fam. So it's getting popular and it works. light music. But then let's get to the most important parts of the environment, things that will cause your mind to be more distracted. What you want to ruminate or imagine is that the less data streams your brain has to analyze, the easier it is going to be for you to focus. Cognitive resource that is available for focus, for example, is limited. And the more you spend it over different data streams, different things your brain has to analyze, the less is going to be available for your focus and the harder it's going to be for you to focus and maintain that focus. You're going to get cognitively tired, mentally tired, the more things your brain has to analyze. What I mean here, if you sit in a place where you have a very cluttered environment, you have a lot of things on your on your walls, like the ones you face. You have a lot of things on your desk. You have a lot of things in your environment that you see. That's all gonna add to that mental clutter and those, data streams that your brain analyzes. Don't be, super obsessed about that, making your place perfectly clean and pristine, although that does help. But make sure that there is not a lot of clutter that you always kind of have to think about, or it draws your mind away from what you do to other thoughts. Like every single thing that is in your environment has the potential to take the focus off from what you want to do to other things that are not related to what you're working on. Just remember that. Audio distractions. If you have a lot of noise, get noise canceling headphones, get earplugs. Noise affects your cognitive performance. A lot of research on that. So the more noise you have to filter out, the harder it's going to be for you to focus. So eliminate all of that stuff. Ruminate also on that image of a cave. Brightly lit cave though, not the dark one. You're there alone. There is nothing there. There is only you, your work, and that's it. That's the kind of environment you want to create. The more you can implement that, the easier it's going to be for you to focus. A lot of writers I listen to on podcasts or different interviews, or I read about them, they have this ritual where they schedule their writing hours and they allow themselves to do nothing but writing. They can sit in front of their computer or typewriter and do nothing. But the only thing they're allowed to do is the writing. And guess what? Your brain will get bored and eventually will start working and producing all this quality of work because there is nothing else to do, to think, or, to occupy, to distract itself with. Be aware of this fact. The less distractions you have, the easier it's going to be for you to focus. Also, by distractions, I mean technology. And your technology is part of your environment. In fact, when I worked with entrepreneurs on calls, we talked about physical environment and your digital environment, like your laptop, your phone, any sorts of notifications, if you have 80 tabs open for no reason, if you have many screens with things popping out, if there are notifications popping up, put your computer in a do not disturb or airplane mode. And yes, modern computers, by the way, folks, laptops, tablets do allow to do that. So figure that out so nothing disturbs you, because every notification that pops up is going to take you out of that focus, and it may take you 10 to 20 minutes to get back to the same quality of focus. So your digital environment, the closer your phone to you, the more notifications there are, the harder it's going to be for you to focus. If you have all your notifications on and you're constantly being on the verge of being interrupted, please do not get surprised that it's so hard for you to focus. Research showed that the closer your phone, even without any sounds, even face down to you, the harder it's going to be for you to focus, the worse you're going to perform on cognitive tasks. So not only, the sounds, but even proximity of your phone. So put it away, out of sight, out of mind, and you will focus much easier. Yeah, so as I said, notifications on your computer, tabs open. If you collaborate with other people, figure out a way how to arrange asynchronous communication, or hours where you stay connected and hours where you disconnect and do your deep work. Set up those hours that kind of fit everyone. Like, for example, afternoon, I find for a lot of people I work with, not the most productive time. So it might be a good time for you folks to connect and collaborate and stay online. And morning hours, work around being in that focused state and doing the deep work. The environment. Here I want to conclude. Just remember that every single source of distractions will make focus harder. So notifications on, sounds and off, sounds off, your phone away. You sit in a place that doesn't distract you. There is not a lot of clutter. Ideally, you face some wall where there is no movement, nothing to think about, just, clear space. Audio distractions, none of that unless it's brain of a music helping you to focus. And just organize your environment. Start there, the easiest part, and see how things will dramatically change for you folks. It's just not me saying, it's the experience of other people that I worked with. So now we covered biology, we covered environment, and the third bucket is psychology. And by psychology, I mean how you work with your mind and how you set up your brain, your mental environment to but to harness focus better, to have stronger, longer focus and struggle with your own distracting thoughts much less. So there is this quality of your mind, folks. I don't know if you knew that, but your brain has an ability to filter out most of the stuff. Otherwise, the reality would be just so overwhelming. And research showed that we see in reality not what's there, but what makes sense in our situation, what gives us benefit, what serves our purpose. In order to tune up this system and make it work even better, filtering out distractions, even your own irrelevant thoughts. If you want to help your brain to do that, before sitting down for focused work, first of all, ask yourself, what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to accomplish? And then write it down. What is the end goal? What is the destination here? What are you trying to accomplish? Write it down. By writing it down, you make it prominent, you make it important, you make it obvious what's important there, and you stimulate, you boost that reticular activation system that allows you to filter out the noise even in your own head. And so instead of giving you distracting, irrelevant thoughts, your brain will give you more insights into your work, into that goal that you just wrote down. And then not only that, if you want to maintain long focus and you want to boost it and you want to keep releasing the dopamine that keeps you focused, break down this task, this goal that you wrote down for the next bout of focus work, maybe hour and a half, maybe a couple of hours, maybe an hour, and break it down into small steps. So every time you pass the milestone, you get a little bit of feel of accomplishment. You can just cross it off your list. And that will give you a boost of dopamine, a sense of progression that will stimulate the release of that dopamine that keeps you focused. So instead of feeling like you're just working for 1 hour on one task, you're going to feel like you're just accomplishing a lot of small things every now and then. And that will keep your focus going. That will keep you hooked on the work at hand. So that's psychology, focus psychology now, one-on-one, how you boost that reticular activation system, or RAS for short, to filter out noise, distractions, even your own distracting thoughts. Now, the second tool I give to all of the clients I work with, but especially people who have ADD tendency or sometimes even clinically diagnosed ADHD. So what I give people this tool, I call it a thought note. I use it for myself. I don't know if I, have a tendency for ADHD or not, but it helps me to not go after one rabbit hole after another. What you do with this thought note tool is you have a place where you put your thoughts in. For me, it's it's actually not digital, it's physical notebook, usually a small ones that I can just tear off pages and then throw away. And as my thoughts come up in my mind, and they're not related to what I'm doing, or might be related, but in the, longer perspective and future. So just write those thoughts down, and then I keep working on what I'm working on. I write it down, I keep working on what I'm working on. I actually made even a video on Instagram about that. And then I set the time in my day, sometimes every day, sometimes every other day. And I sit down and I go through the list of the ideas, and then I looked at the ones that make sense to work on, to schedule, to review, to do any sorts of action. So I look through those goals, through those thoughts, through those ideas. I look through them, I schedule them, I schedule the time maybe for further research or how I'm going to implement that. And then I'm going to tear away the page and throw it away because that's been taken care of. You'll think, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is it allows you to stay on task at hand, deliver the work, so your work can move forward, so you can work with other people and their work can move forward. And then most of those ideas, it will give you a chance to settle down a little bit. And at first every idea feels so exciting, but when you allow some time to pass and you look at it, let's say the next day, it's like, what I was thinking, I don't even know. So this tool is great for keeping you focused at the moment and then allowing you to also harness the power of your creative mind and have captured those ideas that might be actually quite genius, unique, and can help you to make progress faster. So this thought note tool is a great tool to manage your psychology that often or sometimes brings you a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts in all the wrong times. And these are 3 buckets, and psychology is the shortest one, I guess, but it's no less important because also your motivation levels, your anxiety levels, your worries, all of that will and can interrupt your focus. And I guess the last psychology tool or tip that I always talk about with my clients is take care of all of the errands, all of the worries, or schedule the time to take care of them. So it's not in the way of your focus, of your thinking process, of your idea generation. Just sit down before you work, write down everything that you're worried about or anxious about, and then either schedule the time to work on those things later or take care of them right now. So, for example, people don't interrupt you, or nobody's coming to fix your internet or anything like that, right? These things will also distract you if you allow them, if you don't manage them, if you don't capture them, if you don't take care of them. Even a simple thing as writing them down will already take them out of your mind. And as David Allen has this beautiful saying, your mind is for creating ideas, not for holding them. And it's exactly that. Your mind will come up with brilliant ideas, solutions, and worries and anxieties also serve a purpose. But don't let that interrupt your focus and productive work right now. Capture them and then deal with them. Schedule the time to deal with them, and your focus will stay strong, uninterrupted, and long. So I covered quite a lot today. We talked about the biology, the basics of biology necessary for focus. We talked about environment, this cave and one data stream images. We talked about psychology to prime your brain for focused work and to deal with distracting thoughts as they come up, and to help to boost this amazing system in our brain that filters out unrelated stuff, reticular activation system. So we talked about all of these tools, and now it's your job, folks, to sit down, go over these tools, maybe even re-listen to this podcast, and create a plan for you to implement that. Look at your situation, where you think you really undermining your focus, you really make it weak, when it doesn't have to be that way. So where are your weakest points? Work on them, see what improves, and then re-listen to this podcast episode and see what you can add, because everything that I put together here, it's already the foundations of focus one-on-one. There is no fluff. So use all of this, but take it one step at a time, addressing the weakest links, and then work your way from there. If you have any questions, don't forget to reach out, Angela at brainbreakthroughcoach.com. You can also schedule your own brain breakthrough session that can be around focus or flow states, or things like procrastination, motivation, anxiety, and worries, and brain nutrition, and a better quality sleep. All of these things we can go over, but reach out, Angela at brainbreakthroughcoach.com. And the most important thing, folks, what would help me a lot, and I would be very grateful for that if you do that as often as possible. Share this podcast with as many people as possible if you find information here useful and you think that other people could benefit from it as well. Perhaps you could also find a buddy to work on things you hear on this podcast, you learn from this podcast. So share this podcast as much as possible. That one thing that would really, really, really make a difference in my work, because the purpose of this podcast is to help as many people as possible to know all of these tools, to use all of these tools to ultimately do better in life and have a much better, more successful life experience. So please share, folks, reach out if you need help, and have an awesome, refreshing weekend, because how you recover is how you stay productive. Talk to you soon. Share, reach out, and have an awesome weekend.